Alright, so finally we have the first big update for Palworld. And for this video, I'll be going over the new raid boss and basically tell you everything you need to know about this fight. Bellanoir actually has 3 different versions, but we're mainly going to focus on 2 of them, and you're going to know exactly why later in this video. So first up, to even participate in the raid boss, you've got to be at least level 33 so that you can unlock the summoning altar using ancient technology points. This is what you're going to use to obviously summon Bellanoir, but aside from the summoning altar, you're also going to need the Bellanoir slab. And for this one, you're gonna have to do a couple of dungeon runs so that you can open the chest at the end and have a chance of getting the fragments that you need for crafting the Bellanoir slab. You can get the normal fragments from the lower level and mid-level dungeons, and then you can get the Libero fragments from the dungeons that are level 45. There's another one which is for the most difficult version of the raid boss, but I recommend focusing on the other 2 first because the Ultra version is more like an achievement type of thing. But if you want to know more about that version, then stick around because I will talk about that later in this video. So once you obtain the summoning altar and you also have a Bellanoir slab, the first thing that you need to do is to find a location for this boss fight. How this works is that you're going to place the summoning altar in one of your bases, and so what I recommend is that you take one of your PAL boxes and put it in a location with a flat surface because the fight is going to be very chaotic, and so you don't want any obstructions. I also don't recommend putting this in your main base because you don't want anything getting destroyed. And before you even start the boss fight, there's actually a few other things that you need to know. So the first one is that this boss fight actually has a timer, so you need to be able to deal quite a bit of damage, especially once you go up in difficulty. If you don't beat the boss within 10 minutes, then your fragments will basically go to waste. Also keep in mind that if somehow your PAL box gets destroyed, then that is going to automatically end the raid and waste your attempt. The other thing is that a lot of your PALs are probably going to die in combat, so just be ready to have a good amount of backup PALs so that you can deploy them once your other PALs get down. And if you haven't already, make sure that you have your PAL limit set to 20 so that you have all the help that you can get. Next up, also make sure that you have your best equipment on. So that's going to be your armor, weapon, shield, accessories, and a good amount of ammunition. It can also be worth checking your stats to see if you're comfortable with your current build. If not, then I recommend farming beautiful flowers for the memory wiping medicine and reset your stats that way. You can also make food to get more buffs, and then you also have to make sure that you bring your best PALs and have your other powerful PALs deployed in your PAL box. Also go ahead and turn off the raids before you do this boss fight because you don't want anything interfering while you're doing this. And then in the case of when things go wrong and you actually can't beat the raid boss, one thing that you can do to basically try again is that you can restore your backup data in the menu, and you should be able to revert back to a previous save point. Some people might call this cheating, but I also understand that not everyone has all the time in the world to keep farming the fragments. Some people just want to have fun after a long day's work, so this is absolutely fine in my opinion. Next up, let's actually talk about the different versions of Bellanoir and what you should do in these boss fights. So the raid boss that you can summon using the regular slab is going to be relatively easy, especially if you're at level 50. It's going to be a level 30 boss with 294,000 HP, but it's not going to deal a ton of damage if your level is higher, so you pretty much only have to worry about dealing 290,000 damage within the 10 minutes. Using dragon type PALs is going to help because dark type enemies like Bellanoir are weak to that. But if you don't have any good dragon type PALs, then just use the strongest PALs that you have. I did the raid boss with a default world setting preset, and for this one, it only took me less than 5 minutes to actually defeat it. Of course, I'm level 50 with somewhat decent gear, including a legendary shotgun, so that really helps. And so after you beat the raid boss, you're gonna get a bunch of goodies, including an ancient civilization core for crafting the new items, but on top of that, you're also going to get an egg for Bellanoir. One thing though is that if you can't place the egg in the incubator, all you have to do is to rebuild the incubators in your base, and that should fix it. This is honestly not too difficult, but if you're having trouble, you probably need to level up a little bit more, and you might also want to collect more powerful PALs to help you in this fight. And then moving on to Bellanoir Libero. This one is actually a pretty big spike in difficulty, so I'm not sure if many people can beat this by themselves. If you have really strong PALs and you have insane endgame gear, or maybe if you tweak your world settings a little bit, then it is possible, but it's definitely a lot easier in co-op. So Bellanoir Libero is a level 50 raid boss with 450,000 HP, and she has a slightly different moveset from the other version. And at this point, she is able to deal a good amount of damage even if you're level 50, and you're also going to notice that a lot of your pals are going to be taken out very early. Unlike the first one, which only took me about 5 minutes to beat, I actually had to try 5 times before I eventually beat Bellanoir Libero. I had to use food buffs, I had to adjust the skills for all the pals that I'm deploying, and I also had to use the rocket launcher. I don't really know what to say for this one aside from good luck, because your success in beating this boss all comes down to your preparation beforehand. You are absolutely going to need a full set of legendary equipment, food buffs, a good selection of pals that are level 50, have decent passives, and well equipped in terms of skills. It's also going to help if you have a friend or two helping you deal damage to this boss. But after you beat this, or if you're wondering what you actually get from beating this, then I would say that it's actually worth it because you're going to get a different version of Bellanoir as your pal. You're also getting a life fruit, a level 3 multi-climate undershirt, and a slab for Bellanoir Libero Ultra. And basically what a life fruit is for is you can use it to increase the HP for any of your pals. And then of course, a level 3 multi-climate undershirt is always good to have so that you don't have to worry about the climate effects in Palworld. You're also going to get Bellanoir Libero as your pal, which is slightly different than the regular version, but I'll be talking about these pals in depth in my next video. And then finally, you're also getting the slab for the Ultra version for this raid boss, but for this one, I think that this is honestly impossible for any solo player, not unless you tweak your world settings, use mods, or even take advantage of glitches. You're up against a level 50 Bellanoir Libero, which is more powerful than the previous one, and this one also has 900,000 HP, so you most likely need a whole army of players and not just pals. I already know what you can get from this raid boss, but I'm not going to spoil it because I think that it's going to ruin the hype and your excitement for when you actually get the reward for beating the most difficult version of this boss. One thing I will say is that if you're wondering if you can get the third version of Bellanoir after you beat this, the answer is no. You are going to get the same Bellanoir Libero, just like from the previous difficulty, but you're also going to get other items that can only be obtained through beating this boss. So yeah, if you found this video useful, definitely make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Also turn on notifications so that you don't miss out on my next video where I'll be talking about the new pals.